I'm Ken.
This is Kel.
And we are
Not at Odds.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to... This is episode 43. How you doing today, Kel?
Feeling like a pro this far into the game.
I know. Just almost halfway to that 100 mark.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting day. All our listeners are going to be pumped.
Okay, for anybody that it's your first time here, I think Kelly said, where the hell you been?
Yeah, where have you guys been this whole time?
And, hey, the reason we are called Not at Odds is that we're going to find out by the end of this podcast if we're at odds or not. I am a baby boomer / Gen X.
And by definition, I'm a millennial, but not at heart. I don't feel like it. I don't like to claim it, but I'm stuck with the title.
Definition only by the age?
Yeah. I think I'm the older version of millennial. I think I just squeaked in there.
Us baby boomers have other names for millennials, like slackers and lazy, and, but I know you. That's not you.
Don't
so I know
make
what
me
you're
start
saying.
with politically correct edits already.
We won't go with politically correct edits. I'm just saying I know you, and I know that you don't fit the stereotypical mold of millennial. And today we're going to find out if we're odds at, of all things, beer. Beer comes at all different ranges from one end to the other. Where we started, where we ended up, beer stories.
Yeah, and by far one of my favorite topics, favorite things. I am a home brewer. One of my favorite pastimes is getting out in the garage and making some beer, and I've gotten pretty good at it over the last couple of years.
Oh, I thought you was going to say because you're getting your 1-year chip from... No, you're not getting your chip.
Not yet. I keep screwing up.
Okay, we better start off by taking care of the money end of it, taking care of our sponsors, and you got the first read?
I do.
Go ahead.
So here we go. Do you need glasses, contacts, or laser surgery? We have the optometrist for you. Go visit Dr. Like and his fine staff at 55 3rd Street for all of your eyewear needs. Again, that's Like I Care for what you need.
All right, Dr. Like. Are you embarrassed because your newborn is a big old chunk? Do people poke at their roly-poly arms and tubby tummy? Babies are great to love, but sometimes there's just too much to love. That's why here at Not at Odds, we recommend Baby Spanx, the super elastic shapewear that smooths out all your baby's unsightly bumps and bulges. In no time, your baby will go from flab to fab and be the talk of the block. I wouldn't spank a baby, but I sure as hell would Spanx one. Baby Spanx, sold at all your finest retail stores in China. Okay, that takes care of our sponsors. They keep us well fed.
That's great. I think that will make all those baby pictures that you have to see from coworkers a little more bearable.
Yes. Buy them as gifts.
Oh, for sure.
You can't say, hey, your baby's fat, but you can buy them Spanx.
Fair enough.
And hey, I was going to start off with what beers I drink being a baby boomer. And I've got one in my hand. We are enjoying a couple of cocktails. Yep. Mine in my hand is a Bud Light.
That's America's beer.
That's America's beer. That is one of my favorites. I used to be a Budweiser guy, and I went into a Bud Light guy. And but that's just kind of the way of the world when I was growing up. When I was younger, there were some pretty skanky beers. PBR, which has made a huge comeback.
Yeah, that's the popular beer these days. The cheap popular beer.
Is it cheap? I tried it again the other day, and it still was awful.
It's not bad when I'm going for a cheap night, or if I call that a lawnmower beer, one that I can drink a bunch of. A lot of these craft beers I drink, you can't drink a lot of them. It can't be an all-day beer. Yeah. So if I'm going for an all-day beer, that's an all-day beer I'll grab.
Yeah, just the taste gets me. I used to get cases of Globals without the L.
Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble. Colt 45 malt liquor. My 16th birthday is what my father bought me.
Ouch.
What kind of beer did your father buy you for your 16th birthday?
Nah, my dad wasn't that cool.
None. And Stroh's, or as we called it, Shorts. I don't know if you call Stroh's Shorts, because that's what it is spelled backwards, Shorts.
Okay.
So
we can't call it Shorts, because now Shorts is one of the leading craft breweries.
Out of Michigan, right?
Yeah. And, so you're going to fool me if you offer me a Shorts and hand me some garbage like that.
That's true. But the Stroh's was the first that we found that came in a 30-pack for all your alcoholic needs.
Very good.
So that was really good. Now, what kind of beers? Not now, but starting out.
Yeah, so starting out, I was a Bud Light guy like anybody else. I remember kegs of Bud Light because it's a keg you could get for $70, super cheap. It was anytime when you're turning 21, you're looking for the cheaper stuff. It's hard to go out to buy high-priced cocktails when you're 21 and still probably making pretty close to minimum wage. So I did a lot of Bud Light for a long time. But then I have switched over. I'm not a Bud Light guy anymore, but that is where I started.
That is where you started. But when you was 21, was a craft beer was just starting to roll? I mean, was people really into it like they are now?
Well, it was emerging. It's not like I saw my friends drinking craft beer. It wasn't out there. You could find it. I actually vividly remember my first 2 craft beers, and I hated them. One of them now is one of my favorite craft beers, though. So it very first started, I was at a house party. It was a housewarming party for some friends of my wife's, and the guy that was hosting kept going on and on and on about this beer that I had to try. It was Newcastle Brown Ale. And it took a lot for me to be nice that day. Mm-hmm. I got the beer. I drank it with a smile. I told him it was great, but I could barely stomach it. I hated that beer so much. And that is still a really popular beer now.
Okay.
You can still find it everywhere, and I still hate it. Never came around to that one. And then the other one was Two Hearted Ale by Bell's Brewery, which is Michigan's, I believe, oldest craft brewery. And now it's one of the most popular craft beers out there. I don't know where it ranks in popularity, but I think it pops in on every top 10 list for craft beer.
I think I'd have to agree with that. The first ones that I seen out there, like at a bar on a tap, and this is still, I guess, a craft beer, a Blue Moon.
Yep.
I
don't think it would fall under the craft label anymore.
I don't think so anymore, but I think it did then.
Yeah.
And I wasn't drinking it. My cousin Steve, he would get it, and it'd have an orange in it, and I'd make fun of him. I said, that looks like a girly beer. Might as well have an umbrella. And, so that's...
Yeah, I don't think it's a craft beer anymore, but you find a lot of craft beers that I feel, my opinion, are pretty closely related to it, and you can kind of tell that maybe that was an inspiration. Like in Michigan, Oberon is a very, very popular craft beer, and I think you can definitely tell. This is my opinion. I could be completely wrong. For all I know, Oberon's older than the Blue Moon, but it's reminiscent, It's like Blue Moon at heart, I feel.
But technically, I think the Blue Moon has oats. Is that what makes it creamy? There's a cream factor to it, and I think it was oats.
Oats brings up the head retention and the creaminess.
And the Oberon don't. And then Shock Top is also trying to be a kind of a Blue Moon.
Kind of cloney of a Blue Moon, yep.
Yeah, and back, when breweries are coming around, and I'm a fan of food, and a lot of times breweries don't sell my Bud Light, and we'd go into, there was a couple of them, Quay Street and Port Huron.
Okay.
And I could say that you've never been there, and you probably won't because they're closed now.
Okay.
And what would happen is I'd go in there and tell the waitress, I want the lightest craft beer that they have.
And they brought
waitress
you
not knowing.
something super hoppy, right?
It'd be super hoppy, but it'd be light color.
Yep.
You're the only one that I could ever know looked at a bottle and seen light color and said, yeah, it's a non-hoppy. Because you did do that the other day, and you was like, see?
It might have been a good guess.
It was a good guess, I think. But, and it was super hoppy, and you go from a Bud Light to a super hoppy, and that was just, you'd have one beer and choke it down with a dinner.
Yeah, it feels like it punches you in the face. And that's where I was when I tried that Two Hearted Ale. You've had Two Hearted Ale, and you hate it because of how hoppy it is. I think they claim it's like a double or triple hopped, dry hopped IPA. I believe. I could be wrong about that. But it gets you right in the face with those hops. And going from being a normal Bud Light drinker to having that as one of my first craft beers, I hated it. I remember I got a 4-pack of it, and 3 of those beers sat in my refrigerator for probably a year.
Yeah.
And again, broke 21-year-old at the time. Eventually, I got to a point where I was like, done staring at these beers, cracked all 3 of them open, poured them into a pitcher, and just chugged the pitcher just to get it out of my fridge.
There you go.
But now it's one of my most favorite, loved beers. Came around to it.
I tried one time to be a craft brewer. I had that, what is it, Mr. Keg, or what was that called? The little plastic...
Mr. Beer.
Mr. Beer.
Yeah.
I was bought as a present for me, and I knew sugar makes alcohol content.
Yeah.
So a little bit is good. 4 times that is way better.
Right.
That's what I thought. But that was, oh my gosh, that was just horrible. It was plastic 40-ounce bottles.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just horrible.
I bet you had a lot of dead yeast flavor in there. Well, we won't get into home brewing.
Yeah, we won't.
One,
yeah,
but you might end up with a bunch of dead yeast in that.
That's something. Some other beers that I've had that I was going to find out if you had ever had is going back to my childhood. I was ditch beers. Have you ever had ditch beer?
Never heard of it.
Let me tell you what a ditch beer is. I lived in a little town, and on Saturday mornings, me and my friends would go comb the ditches by the stop signs of the roads coming into town, because people drinking coming into town would throw their beer in the ditch so they wouldn't get busted by the cops, and we'd go out the next morning and get them.
Nice.
And that's how we. And my first beer was a ditch beer, downtown in front of the cop station, broad daylight. 3 of us split a beer, and we was probably drunk as we ever could be. So
I think the idea of that would have turned me off beer for life.
if I was like 12 or 13, I doubt it.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
So my first attempt at beer, you might correct me on this, but my first memory, you'll learn that my dad's a boater. I've turned into a boater, but we spent our weekends up on his boat when I was growing up. And what boating really looks like, I mean, the boating is the vessel that usually gets you to the beach, or the thing that you float on while you drink beer. It's more about beering than boating. But this day we got out to the beach. Him and his buddies were standing waist deep water drinking beer. And
Why do you think we was waist deep, Kelly? Do you know the answer to
you're
that
not
now?
helping the story.
Okay.
You're not helping the story. And I started bugging him for beer, and finally, all right, gave me one, took a drink, had to spit it out. Surprised I didn't throw up, but what my great dad did is he took one of his empties and filled it with lake water, and that was my first attempt at a beer. So thanks for that.
You're welcome. You actually had a drink of a beer younger than that one of my buddies gave you, and me and him had it out over that, and he's the same one that come to visit one day and brought a gun in the house, and I'm like,
Nice.
no, that's got to go. And and he took you out on a snowmobile with no helmet. That was a good friend.
Good guy.
You don't even remember him, but yeah. So yes, did do the lake beer. In high school, where I went to school is actually in your town. You could have pop in class.
Okay.
This wasn't a beer, but there's a story. You'd get a Faygo pop bottle and fill it with Boone's Farm Tickle Pink, and go through the hallways and be able to drink that. That was eat bagels. That's when I learned about bagels, and when we'd skip school,
Bagels and Boone's Farm.
bagels and Boone's Farm in class.
Nice.
I know. I don't think you got to do that in your high school.
No.
And also, okay, I think the time limit ran out to where I can't be charged for this, but in high school, when we'd skip school, we'd go up to the Sunshine Dairy store. I'm pointing where it is, but anyhow, you guys can see me point, right? Anyhow, go to the Sunshine Dairy with my buddies, and my job was to ask a lot of stupid questions to the teller why they stole bottles and bottles of beer. That was my job, and then we'd drive around. But there's another beer that I had that I don't know if this counts as a beer. Zima?
I don't think so. I think this day and age, for the millennials listening, we call that White Claw.
White Claw
these days.
Yeah, so I've got a meme on here that I'm going to send you.
Okay.
That the White Claw thing. But the Zima was before it was even in Michigan, when I was driving limousines for your grandpa.
Okay.
These people got a bunch of Zima from out of state, and they really wanted me to try it, and they said they was going to leave me some in the limo. So after the job, I'd drink it, and I still don't know how I feel about it. I've drank it when I've ran out of beer, because when you run out of beer, you've already probably had too much. Shouldn't be drinking
Gotta keep
Zima anyhow.
going.
But I still got a cool Zima sign.
I've had Zima. White Claw isn't the same. Zima's much sweeter. I think Zima has a syrupy sweetness to it. It's not preferable, and I'd hardly call it a beer.
I know.
But
Something's different.
I think you're grasping at straws now.
Yeah. There's one more beer I was going to ask you about, and if you've ever had dog dick beer.
I have not.
I probably beg to differ with you, because you may not have known it. Do you know there's a story behind this? Do you know the story?
No. And I'm afraid I might have to just hit cancel on this podcast right now. But go ahead.
Okay. I'm just saying, because I figured, some of your friends might listen to this too. And this is from your buddy Robert, and we were all to his hoax. It was your bachelor party.
Okay.
And when we all got back, I met you back at the house. You had been off Bachelorette. You were covered from head to toe on marker. That's a whole nother show. And you guys had partied pretty good. Your buddy Shane was there.
Okay.
And Robert thought it was really funny. What he was doing is, you had a big old fridge kegerator right through the door. Or
Keggy,
something.
yep.
Okay, and
It was like an old 1950s refrigerator that we converted into a kegerator.
it was really cool.
It was cool. I miss that. I wish we had kept it.
So that's what he was serving us beers out of. And then you had a basset hound or something, some sort of dog.
We had a beagle.
A beagle. And so what he thought was really funny is he would pour us a beer and stick it, the dog's stuff into it, and then go hand it to you and to Shane, and I'm sure me too. And he really thought that was funny. And I see the look on your face. He's gonna get it. You shove him out in front of a car or something on Fenton Road, or
Possibly. I question the legitimacy of that.
I seen it. I was watching it. I was the one that busted him, and he was like, "Shh," and then he laughed and said he gave me one too. So that's some
times.
hijinks, but those are old beer things. And then the Strohs, like I said, they was the first one with a 30-pack. With that Strohs was a buddy of mine lived his back deck was on a slant all the way. The deck wasn't, but the yard was a huge slant. There's probably 8 foot from the deck down to the yard. That was just a huge slant down. He had one of those big clay fireplaces that looked like a onion
Okay.
shape or a garlic bulb.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And he wanted to throw it over the rail and let it bust.
Nice.
Okay, well, we threw it over the rail and it rolled down and stood straight up way down at the back of his yard. So what do? You throw lawn chair furniture over and drag it down there,
Start a fire.
and start drinking a 30-pack of Strohs.
Okay.
And so he was quite a jokester too, but not with the dog. But he'd poke a hole in the can before he'd open it, or and it'd spray on you and ha ha ha.
Okay.
And one of us got one with the hole in it. We threw it in the fire.
Okay.
It started sizzling really, really loud, and that thing just exploded and blew up. All the fire, everything come out of that fireplace, all
Wow.
over the furniture, which ended up being his wife's brand new outdoor lawn furniture.
Nice.
Very expensive. But we spent weekend after weekend trying to recreate that. Didn't happen.
Yeah, that's a weird.
Excuse me.
Something weird must have happened. You wouldn't think beer would have enough alcohol to have that kind of.
I don't think it was blowing up because of the alcohol. It was the pressure in the can.
Oh, so he didn't
Because
pop
it-
his hole in it?
Well, popped a hole in it, but it
Not
started
enough.
boiling.
Okay.
And then blew because of that.
Gotcha.
And drinking stories from when you was younger. Have you ever drank too much beer? It might not even be when it's younger. It could be last week. Might have been last night. How you doing?
I've had nights drinking too much beer, but more often than not, I can put down a lot of beer. Usually where my rough nights come from is when I start mixing in other things.
Zima?
Zima, for one. I don't know, you're putting me on the spot on this one. I've got lots of stories, but to link the origin back to beer, I don't know if I could. Usually it was a lot of liquors that I can't handle anymore because of those nights. 5 o'clock vodka is one of them. Because of that, I can almost not touch vodka anymore, and I don't drink orange juice. Just can't do it.
Yep.
Those are some rough nights, right, Shane? And first bad beer story, Steel Reserve. That night, I don't know, it was me and David, maybe Robert, maybe Shane. Me and David for sure. We sat outside Swack Party Store in Flint, on Fenton Road. We sat across the street in the donut shop's parking lot, waiting to see someone just shifty enough that we thought we could give money to get us some beer. And he came out with an entire case of 22s of Steel Reserve. And we took that out to Goodrich, and that was a good night.
Yeah.
I don't drink Steel Reserve anymore either, though.
Hey, on the same subject, you told me about Hemp Hill and Atherton Road store. You guys
Rite
were paying
Aid?
somebody, not the Rite Aid, Hemp Hill down by Sicily's. I think that's the store. Was that the store?
Oh, yeah, we tried that one night. This was actually before Robert was leaving for the Army.
Oh,
We were
okay.
trying to have one last party before he took off. And there's an old party store that we're talking about that we weren't the brightest at the time, but this party store had a back door that most cars parked at, and that was where everybody came in. But they also have a front door. So we found a guy, gave him money to go and buy us beer, and we never saw him again. He ran out the front door. I said, we weren't the smartest at the time.
I myself, well, me and a buddy of mine, I was a senior, he was a sophomore. And we both decided to go to this party of his friends, so his sophomore parties, and I was a senior. We was going to each try to drink a case of beer.
Nice.
And mine, I'm sure, was Budweiser from at the time. And I think got pretty close to doing that. And the party was in a basement. When I went to go up the stairs, I got to the top stair. and just fumbled backwards.
Nice.
Just fell backwards and just about busted my head open. And I kind of laughed and got up there and got in the passenger seat of my car. My buddy Weird Harold did not have a license yet, but he was driving me home. It was snowy, and I thought I was going to be sick. Opened up the door, just rolled out in the snow.
Oh, nice.
Crawled back in, and so obviously we've all
both had nights.
Had nights, and we've had a lot of different beers. What about a beer bong? I had that in here on beer bong. Have you ever done that? That was big.
I've never did a beer bong. I've done lots of keg stands.
I've seen pictures of that.
Yeah, that was fun times. We had a trailer that we rented right after high school, and while doing keg stands, I'm a tall guy, very tall. So figured out that if I'm doing a keg stand, I'm tall enough to plant my feet on the ceiling of this trailer so I could hold myself up while doing keg stands.
Yeah, I have seen those photos. They'll make a father proud.
Fun times, fun times.
And so let's go back towards the craft beer and the Bud Light.
Okay.
I kept having bad craft beers. I was having problem craft beers, liking them at all. And then you got into the craft beer where you really liked it, and I'd try a couple, and I was like, nope, not happening.
Yeah.
But really wanting to, you always want to have something in common.
Yep.
And I'm glad that I did pursue that, because we probably spend 90% of our conversations
talking about beer or talking about a new brewery or going to a brewery. Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
5% boating, and the other 5% nonsense stuff like children and stuff like that. But kept trying, and because I'd even went to Founders.
Yeah.
That holds a special place in your heart.
That's craft beer mecca for me. That's ground zero. They have all my favorite beers. It's always been my favorite brewery. Try to make it there as much as I can.
I went with my brother-in-law, and I remember sending you photos.
Yeah.
I was trying all the way down the line. I was trying each one. Nope. I finally sent you a picture of a water. Said, this is just right. So unfortunately,
it's the closest thing to Bud Light you could find.
The closest thing to Bud Light, thanks. And you told me you was going to brew something. You was just going to pour water over
Drop a hop in it.
Drop a hop or something. But unfortunately, what that meant is everything I wasn't drinking, Chuck was having a drink.
Nice.
And so he liked it. And so I was striking out at Founders, and still trying to reach out and have something. I seen that in Frankenmuth they had a beer tasting, beer pairing. It was a pairing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they had a lot of local brewers around. And at that time, you was still doing extract brewing. Explain that, what extract is.
Yeah, so extract brewing is kind of the way you ease into brewing beer. All the hard work is kind of already done with for you, and at this point in the process, you kind of add a beer or hop grain concentrate to the water that you're boiling, and that kind of turns it into that beer. But you have very little control over the type of beer you're brewing. You can't really tweak it, anything like that, because it's just almost a syrup that you add to the hot water, extract, and then you add some hops, and then that's it.
And but I know you's being successful even with that, because people.
It's hard not to be successful when you're doing extract kits.
Well,
it's kind of like, I don't know, like a microwave dinner. It's hard not to have that microwave dinner come out how it's supposed to.
Yeah, I still wasn't liking those, but you had gave a friend of mine some that helped with your brew pots when you was getting into brewing,
yep.
and I seen him the other day. How many years ago would that have been?
That's probably close to 3 years ago.
And he's still, hey man, and I'm always, I'll bring you some. Anyhow, so we went to Frankenmuth, and they had a beer pairing, and they had.
It was more of a teaching, like a learning seminar. Like it came with a beer pairing, but it had brewers from big breweries around Michigan coming, kind of talking about the craft and getting excited about it.
Yeah, and I found that it blew my mind when they started talking about it, and I'd drink it, and I'd like it.
Yeah.
The funniest thing was whatever your wife would say it tasted like that. banana, and he's opening a beer, and
it's easy to get biased on stuff like that.
But everything, oh, this is so smooth. Yeah, it's smooth. Anything she would say, I don't know if it was because that's what, well, I believe it is still from what that was, but when she'd say it, it'd just fire up those taste buds. And I learned, you said as a teaching, I learned something called IBU. IBUs, actually.
International Bittering Units.
There you go. I was going to ask you if you knew what that was, because
Oh, come on.
I'm sorry. But I really had to research that, because what I found out is the lower the IBUs, the better I liked it.
So anybody that isn't familiar with beer talk, IBUs is kind of a way to tell how much of that hoppiness you're going to get. If you think about something like your standard IPA or like a two-hearted ale, it's going to be very, very high on the IBU scale. But if you think of a darker
40?
beer,
40?
40s, 50s, it gets up higher than that. But after 40s and 50s, your palate can't tell the difference. And then if you think about a darker, like chocolatey beer that doesn't have that hop bite, that's going to be super low IBUs. Or super light beers are going to have low IBUs. That's what it means.
Like a Bud Light is about a 7.
7?
I think
don't
about
know.
a 7. I think that's what it is, about a 7 or 8.
Okay. I would have guessed about 0.5, but...
That would be a Coors Light.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I found beers that I liked, craft beer. All right, now we got something in common that I can sink my teeth in, or drink.
Right.
It's too thick if I was having to sink my teeth into it. But so after that, I found Hefeweizen.
Yeah.
I really like the Hefeweizen.
Do you know what hef means? It's German for hop.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And for the most part, a lot of them are low on IBU. Not as low as a Bud Light, but they are over the scale.
Real low on IBUs. I think like between 12 and 15 typically.
12 to 15. I've seen
Yep.
some at 30, something like that.
That's
I think,
probably a pretty high one.
I think that is the Midland Brewery one.
Okay.
And so I started finding some. And so on the beer list in a brewery, you can see IBUs usually. It'll tell
Typically,
the
yep.
alcohol content in the IBUs. And that's when I started trying some other ones. And so then when you decided you want to do grain brewing.
So then all grain brewing, that's
Yeah,
when
all
you
grain.
start brewing it. It's called from grain to glass. You have every aspect of the beer brewing process at that point. You can change out your grains, your hops. You can completely tweak the beer that you like. So
Yeah. So I had a friend of mine. His brothers have a brewery, a big brewery.
Midland Brewing Company.
Midland Brewing
If you're
Company.
ever in Midland, Michigan,
There you go.
Hit them up. Good beer, good food. Midland Brewing Company. We're still looking for more sponsors.
Yes, we are, Lawrence Brothers. And so I talked to my buddy, and he said, "Hey, have Kelly come up, and I'll show him how to do some all grain brewing, and on their system, on one of their travel systems,
It's like a pilot
portable.
system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and of course we said yes, and we get up there, and my buddy Mike was like, I almost didn't do this today. I almost canceled. And he was like, why? Well, my dad had died, or he just had the funeral, or something of that
Is
sort.
in between him passing and the funeral, or right after the funeral, something that any other person would have canceled on.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, you should have canceled. He says, no, I love brewing,
Yep.
and this is good medicine for him. And
Yeah, just like any good hobby, it can help recharge your batteries, help get you in a better mood, and it's a passion thing, right?
That's right,
So
that's
I
right.
completely I didn't get it then. I completely get it now.
yeah, well, we went in there, and here's Parker. And he wanted to give his intake on all grain brewing.
Yeah. He helps me out.
Yeah. And so that was a lot of fun. But what they had to do is get on the computer and transpose it from, how many gallons do they brew? I mean, what was they taking it from?
They brew in barrel sizes, and that can go sky's the limit. 50 barrel, 100 barrel.
What did they have
200
there,
barrel.
though? Was it like a 50?
I don't remember, but my guess would be like 500.
To your 5 gallons, they're doing hundreds and had it.
Hundreds of gallons, and they have to really scale it down. And at that point, it's a simple division, dividing 500 by 5 gallons, and it's just really easy to make that math happen.
And they had a program, right? He had a program that did it for him.
Yep.
And he did that. And then all we had to do, my job was, they had a little mini kegerator back there, 4 or 5. My job was
The
to
employee
drink
kegs?
those. Yes, I had to drink out of those while watch you guys brew. And so he was trying to make the cream ale, which I like, cream ale. And their Hefeweizen is one of them with more IBUs. Don't know if you know that, but
I didn't.
then we tried a dark beer, which typically I wouldn't like a dark beer. He said his wife likes it.
Okay.
So, but I know
So it made sense for you.
you make fun of my Hefeweizen too.
Right.
And but yeah, no, I tried it and I liked that one. So I found a lot of beers that I liked there. And then something happened. What happened with that batch?
They got one of the math problems wrong. Something that one of the grains that we're supposed to put in there, we're supposed to put in 0.5 ounces of this grain as a caramel grain, and we did 5 pounds of it, which is a little bit of a difference.
And do you remember which grain that was?
It is caramel, and then there's different types of caramel, like it's caramel 40, I think, or something in the caramel family, which is meant to be a very, very light part of any beer brewing process. It's a specialty grain that just you put a little bit in there to get that flavor, and we did about 50% of the recipe as that.
Yeah, and so when you realize that, you tried to fix it.
Yeah, we tried to fix it, and I think I just ended up adding water to it to kind of really cut down and kind of drown out the flavor of it, and it turned out actually really, really well. And I tried brewing it again, that same recipe again, because people liked it. It was weird. Everything you read online says if you use that much of that grain, it's going to be a beer you put down the drain. But
yeah, they said it'd be a disaster. So what did you call it? New Disaster.
New Disaster. Yeah,
that's what you. That's what you named it, and from then on out, I got to name your beers.
Yeah,
That's my job.
Named every beer since then.
Taste them and do that. So then another place, just giving props out to places that we need more sponsors, is Lumber Baron. We really like Lumber Baron. That's because you can combine boating and beer, and so we
their brewery's right on the river.
Yeah. Park at the marina. Walk up there, and they had a lot of good beers that I've been. And what I do, talking about the IBUs, I start off with something lighter, and I can work my way up to something. And I've had some pretty heavy duty IBUs but I have to have a few, then you got to carry me out. But and you was talking about Two Hearted Ale being high on IBUs. I didn't even realize that because I have been to weddings and drink Two Hearted Ale at this point, and I don't mind it.
Yeah, that actually surprises me because I think out of all the beers I drink, even that's one of the heaviest hitters when it comes to IBUs and have that hot punch.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, there's some out there that just smack you in the face for sure. And there's a lot of just bad craft beer out there. And
for sure,
I listen to a lot of brewing shows too, just so that we've got stuff to talk about. I might not understand it, but I can talk about it. And I sent you a new one. I don't know if you got to listen to it. And
not yet.
Okay.
Brew Strong.
Brew Strong. A lot of experience in there. It's a lot different than that. What's the other one called?
Brewlosophy.
So you'll see a difference there. But even
I've actually listened to a few Brew Strongs a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
So I know what you're talking about. I know those guys.
Yeah, they mentioned several times that there's a lot of bad beer out there that can give it a bad name, and I'm sure that's what I was running into.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's just like any other craft, right? Like, imagine if you thought of the generalization of food, right? And then you go to a bad restaurant. You don't hate food now. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. There are bad breweries out there. I'm not going to throw them under the bus, but they're out there, and
he's pointing in a general direction.
He's pointing west. So if you figure out where I live, you might be able to pinpoint it. But, I mean, you know, there are breweries out there that they are missing the mark, and you just don't go to them anymore. But it doesn't mean you don't like craft beer, because then you go to a brewery down the road, which one of the things I found when I was getting ready for this episode is that most Americans, the average American, lives within 10 miles of a brewery. So they're all around. So if you find one you don't like right around the corner, you might find one that you love and becomes your go-to restaurant. And
I'm not so sure it's a acquired taste. It is a knowledgeable taste. You have to find something that you like.
Yeah.
I thought they were all bad like that. I've had them that taste like dishwater. And, you know, that's what I thought they were all like until through going to Frankenmuth and then you teaching me. And you'll brew beers just for me sometimes.
Yep.
I appreciate that. You always got to have somebody brews beer for you.
It's a nice friend to have.
Yes. And so...
but it just, when it comes to beer brewing, there's so much science to it, and it even boils down to the water in the area that you're at, right? So there's just so many factors that it's pretty easy to go wrong. And if you're not getting the feedback to adjust, you might stay on that wrong side of the track. But go try more beers.
Yeah, and just like with your brewing, I think that you like it when people are honest with if they like your beer or not.
Yeah.
And people give you feedback, but you care.
Yeah.
You care, that's for sure.
I do care, and I like feedback, and I like honest feedback. I hate it when people just love my beer to love it. Like, tell me
because it's free?
Yeah, it's easy to love a friend with free beer, but if my beer's no good, tell me it's no good, because I already know it's no good. So if you tell me it's great, I know I can't trust you.
But you don't like all your beers that you brew.
I don't? Oh, yeah. You're right. Most of them I can tell quality, though. The Hef is the only one that really throws me off.
Watched you I don't know why I had to say but twice. But watched you brew. I've watched people watch you brew. You've got your whiteboard. You're like a mad scientist. And I've watched people watch you in awe. People that brew it a little bit.
Yeah.
But the quality, and you've spent some money out there. We won't say how much.
If Teresa's listening, I'm about $30 deep.
Yeah, about $30
About
into
30
it. Yep,
bucks.
absolutely.
No, I've got some money into it, but I mean, I think any good hobby you get into, you're going to spend some money. And for a while, I was able to justify.
And you brew beer that she likes.
Yeah, I brew beer that she likes. I used to use the excuse of, oh, it's going to save us money because I'm not going to buy a 4-pack of beer that costs $12. Instead, for $20, I'm going to brew a full keg of it. And that justification isn't working yet. I've got so much money into equipment that it's just not there. But someday.
But a secret PayPal account always helps. And we don't. I heard a podcast that she was outed. She's not really listening anyhow.
Yeah, that's true.
So
She doesn't pay attention.
So, what is your passion? Why do you like craft beer? What is it that you like about it?
I don't remember when I really started getting turned on to craft beer. I think as a general statement, because I have a lot of friends that drink craft beer, and it's a thing. You know, we hunt down good breweries, and we can make a night out of going and trying different beers. Where you don't get that with Bud Light, or a lot of it, even like me and you, right? One of the first things we talk about after we talk about a brewery, we talk about the beer, and then we talk about the food, right?
Food.
It goes hand in hand. I'm not saying there aren't great breweries that don't have great food, but most of them, they go hand in hand, right? Like, one of the reasons I love to go to Founders is that I can try a few new Founders beers that they're only going to have on tap at the brewery, and they have an amazing menu, right?
Yes, I do, and I've since found Founders beers that I do like, because even though I didn't like the ones that I was going to before, once I got more knowledge, because I did eat there and loved their food.
Yeah.
And I went back for the food and kept trying different
I think
beers.
back in the day, I feel that there's a point where you went there food first.
Food first,
right?
yes.
Like you were going there because you knew you'd get good food, and then while you were there, you had to have a beer or two. But it wasn't ever beer first, or for a while, it wasn't beer first.
Right. And now I'm mad at them service-wise, but but I'll still go. But I like the Gold Star Rock.
Solid Gold.
Solid
It's
Gold.
their, not new so much, but I think they just started putting it in cans. It's a Solid Gold lager. That's another good lawnmower beer from Founders.
Mm-hmm.
Find that if you haven't had it. It's a lighter beer. It's definitely a beer that you can ease somebody into craft beer with.
Mm-hmm. And so I found a few like that. But yes, the food on places like you said, Midland Brewing.
Yeah, Millennial Brewing knocks it out of the water with food, and that's what makes a great brewery, right? You can justify the price of the beer you have a great sandwich with it, and that's kind of what makes it a thing, right? I have friends that we go on brewery weekends. We live in Michigan. We have Grand Rapids, which is one of the greatest beer cities out there. So we'll go, and the whole weekend is just going to brewery. We eat all night, have good beer all night, and it's more of a thing than... I never understood the bar hopping when I'm just going to get Bud Light at 10 different bars.
Well, I've done the brewery run with you before, too, and but I do have to say, while I was drinking the craft beers, you was picking up on the deals from the leftover green Bud Light.
Right, is following. Again, this is in Grand Rapids. It wasn't a brewery. It's a nice bar though, and I won't name them.
Yeah.
I won't name them, but we got a discount on some green Bud Light. But unfortunately, it was like May.
Yeah,
So
and you're right.
It wasn't great, but I think we probably paid 50 cents for it.
But there wasn't a brewery. Like
It wasn't a
you said.
brewery. It was a bar, but.
And but some of them we went to, and some of the beers I liked, some I didn't. And
even now, I'm the same way, right?
Yep.
I'll go to a brewery, and if I'm someplace new, I always try something new. Or if I'm someplace old, I still try something new. And they don't knock every one of them out of the park. Some of them are bad. It's very rare that I get one that I just don't finish. Usually there's quality to them, but, not everybody's going to like every beer.
yeah, and you've got a wider taste range than I do, I guess I'll say. You like a wider range of it. And was it this last winter, 6 of us, I think, kind of did a little run over in Saginaw Bay City.
Oh, yeah.
We hit one that...
Started at Oracle.
Oracle.
That was my first time there.
And you liked a lot of their beers there.
I liked a lot of them, and you didn't.
And I didn't, and...
Chuck didn't
Chuck
like them.
didn't.
But everybody I brought liked them.
Right, and there we're back to baby boomers,
Yeah.
millennials, but And Chuck, he likes a wider range of beers too.
Yeah.
He was always one that if he had a party at his house, it wasn't a cooler full of Bud Light. There'd be some Bud Light, but a little bit of everything in there. But yeah, we didn't find anything, and we probably had 12. Was a flight 6 or 4?
I don't remember. You had a few
But
beers.
anyhow, we
and out
had
of the
a
entire
few.
flight, there wasn't anything that you even could say anything nice about.
And I don't think that we finished those, any of those. Then where else did we?
But again, I loved all the beers on my flight.
You
So
did.
it's
You did.
very-
You had that lemon one that we was like, wow.
You guys, you thought it tasted like chemical, like Pledge.
Like Pledge, yeah. We
And
thought
I
it was Pledge.
didn't mind it. I liked it.
Well, you might have drank a few more Pledge than I have. I don't know.
Fair enough.
And where else? We hit a couple more up. I know we ended
We
up.
ended at Lumber Barons at one point.
yep,
in
we
the
ended up there.
stables.
Yeah, Lumber Barons, which they change when they have food or what food, but it's always been pretty good, and that's why
Yeah.
we went there. That's one with food, and Scottish eggs. You got to try those.
Scotch eggs,
Scotch
yeah.
eggs. Scotch eggs.
Which I'm
And-
kind of indifferent about Scotch eggs.
Yeah.
They're all right.
After we had a few beers,
Yeah, we made it down to Tri-Cities Brewing, which is another big name in Michigan.
it doesn't have food
No, they had a food truck, and it wasn't even
that
open.
day. Yeah, not okay.
And
they
we were
don't
on like a
always have it.
Friday or Saturday night.
Yeah, and they
They're
don't
missing
always have
out.
it. They don't always have food, but you can bring your own in.
Okay.
And that's where we seen a very big dog that looked like a pig laying on the floor. So
It's a big English bulldog that spent the last 3 months eating hot dogs, I think.
yes, but they have some beers there that I like.
Yeah,
but I
they had
do
some
like
good beers.
But I do like the food factor. If I'm going to a brewery, I'm probably gonna eat.
Oh, yeah, it's more of a make a night out of it rather than let's go have a couple beers.
Right.
I mean, it can be let's go have a couple beers, but I think that's where it becomes more of an event, and that's why we like the craft beer,
Yeah. And well, you've got some facts and figures that you said you was going to lay
Fun
on me,
stuff.
and I'd like to hear some of this.
I,
School me, Kelly.
Well, I will start. I'm going to name off a couple of the beers I was drinking through this podcast. And I dug through my fridge to find the beers that I thought had the most craftiest craft beer names.
Oh,
So I'm going to
I see what you did there.
rattle off a couple of these because these are the ones that you see and you know are craft beer. So I was enjoying the Roque Brewing Bourbon Barrel Aged French Toast Devil Dog Oatmeal Stout.
Can you say that without reading it? Say that one more. I got to hear that
Brewing
again.
Bourbon Barrel Aged Devil Dog Oatmeal Stout.
And who is
No,
that
I
made
missed
by?
the French Toast.
Okay.
Roque Brewing. It's
Roque.
Royal Oak Brewing Company. No, it's in Royal Oak. I don't think it's called Royal Oak. It's called Roque Brewing
Oh,
Company.
okay.
R-O-A-K. But it's in Royal Oak. And then right now I'm drinking Rochester Mills German Chocolate Milkshake Stout.
And
Again,
where are they out of? They Rochester
they're
Hills.
Rochester Mills, or Rochester, Rochester,
Okay.
not Rochester Hills.
Okay.
But Rochester. Yeah, I just picked those beers because I thought they would be the most likely that if I showed a Bud Light drinker, they'd make a face and make fun of me for drinking that kind of beer. Got
Okay.
some half on tap for you.
That-
So it'd be nice. I did bring you a Founders Solid Gold.
Okay.
I thought I'd
I
be nice to
appreciate
you
that.
because I knew you wouldn't want the Devil Dog.
Obviously in a can.
Sounds refreshing.
There we go. Let's see. Now I have had it, and I do know I like it. And yeah, it's very good. It has some hops, but it's not what you
It's
say
not
in your
overpowering.
face.
It's not going
not
to punch you
your
in the face with hops. And
So
I'm
I
drinking
appreciate
that
that.
German chocolate cake stout right now.
Yeah. I've seen you drink some stuff. That's for sure.
I'm very open-minded when it comes to beer at this point because I've kind of learned to appreciate most of it as long as it's quality. So I'll try the different flavors.
Yeah. One quick back to another story about I've seen you drink some stuff. We took a trip to Tawas.
Yeah.
You say it.
Oh.
They like the way I say it and you say it. Where do
I was corrected, but I've always said Taiwas. But apparently it's Tawas.
Oh,
Tawas.
no, I think that's way wrong now. I think they're messing with you now.
Probably.
But
I
we
say
took-
avocado wrong, too, and I get made fun of for that. Avocado.
Do you wash your hands?
Something like that.
And but we went up there to a little bar up there. And
Little hole-in-the-wall bar, and I went in, and again, this is I was pretty deep into craft beer, so I asked them what they had on tap, and they rattled off their beers on tap that they thought would be popular, that I thought I would like, and then they said, oh, and we have this Final Absolution Dragon's Milk, or Dragon's Mead, one of the other
Dragon's
ones.
Mead, I think it
Dragon's
is.
Mead, which is a very, very high-test dark beer. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll have one of those. Which normally, because of the high alcohol content, the quality of this beer, most bars will charge you $7-8 for a glass of it. And she brought me one out, and we didn't talk about price at all. And she brought me a bill, and she's like, "Well, I didn't know what to charge you for, so I just charged you for a Sam Adams." She was like $2.50 or something. I'm like, all right. And that was the last thing I remember from that night.
Yes,
because I think I ordered like 6 of them after
you
that.
cannot pass up a bargain.
Yeah, I'm a deal hunter.
And when we got back on the boat, you didn't care that the bed was not made into a bed. It was still a kitchen area.
It's a kitchen table.
A kitchen table. And you curled yourself on there, and the next morning you hadn't moved.
Yeah.
And I questioned how you hadn't moved, and you said, "I've got 2 kids."
Yeah. I learned to sleep disconfigured, or whatever you want to say. I learned to be uncomfortable. I do have some beer facts. If you're ready for those.
I'm ready.
Thought I'd find some fun stuff to talk about today. So we have had 4 presidents that are home brewers: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and most recently Barack Obama are all home brewers.
Okay, I do have to say the first 3, that's probably the
Necessity.
only way you could get beer is home brew. I don't think Anheuser-Busch was delivering to D.C. Okay, just
Still
saying.
counts.
Just saying. Okay,
Still
it counts.
counts.
All right. I think that's a stretch.
But still, Barack Obama, I was surprised to see that one. I was pretty excited about that. Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock because their ship ran out of beer. That's the only reason they parked the boat there when they did. It's time to brew. I don't know if it's time to brew beer, time to find beer. I don't know what the plan was there, but that's the reason why. In 1992, we had an astronaut, Bill Reddy, go into space on the space shuttle Discovery, and he brought with him a bag of Cascade hops, which are one of the most popular home brewing hops. And that bag of hops went around the earth 128 times before he took it back to a brewery and had them brew a batch of beer with those hops. Which
Even Parker likes that.
Parker's excited about that one. And then a lot of people I've talked to think that craft beer is kind of at its peak and it's teetering out. And by numbers, it's definitely not. At this point, it counts for 13% of the volume of beer sold in America.
Is that up or down from
That's up.
5 years
It's
ago?
up about 4%. Well, from 5 years ago, I don't know where we're at, but it's definitely up. And it's become a $26 billion industry, which I thought was huge, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to say this last fact till the very end.
Okay. And I told you my theory about the craft brew the other day on the way to my boat in Bay City, going down Wilder Road. They have all these legalized marijuana shops.
Yeah.
The way to say that. And I said that there was, just a couple miles, there's like 6 of them. And because Bay City had passed it, that it's can be used for medical, and I think recreational is coming out soon.
Yeah, it's on its way.
And I don't partake, but I definitely noticed all the green crosses around, started talking to people. But they're craft growing, is that what I guess you'd call it? I don't know. I guess.
I don't know how crafty it gets either.
All these different strains and this and that. And I'm thinking at some time they're going to put together craft brew and craft weed all under one roof, that you can go and have a dragon's mead and a drag of a drag.
It wouldn't surprise me. I think maybe it was Founders. One of the bigger breweries put out an April Fool's joke about that this year, that they're bringing out their first THC infused beer.
Really?
It was a joke.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
All right. But so the industry is definitely still strong.
Oh yeah.
And still going. As you can see, I'm sitting here drinking a solid gold. That's not what's got my throat like this. I'm not sure why I'm losing my voice. And now, and enjoying it. And so I've come a long ways, and I wouldn't if it wasn't for your love of the craft brews and bringing me to that point.
Yeah.
I'll drink a Bud Light, but I will have. Last night I had a couple of Blue Moons, or we go out. I really enjoy it when we go out and have some craft brews. Now, you said you got a big fact for me.
Yeah, so obviously we started talking in this podcast about generations, right? Millennial, baby boomer, and where we meet on that, which I think we've kind of learned to meet in the middle, right?
Absolutely.
We can definitely go out to any bar, and I'm the same way. I talk trash about the America beers, but if I go to
a slur when you say that. I'm not sure what that's about.
When if I go to a bar with you, like the Eagles Club or something like that, and they have Bud Light, I'm going to drink a Bud Light. I'm not going to stand there and not have a beer. So I'd say we definitely meet in the middle on that at this point. But a couple facts. I started looking into some age group facts, and the age group 26 to 34, where I land, millennials. 26.4% of us drink craft beers. And then baby boomers, 50 to 65, land at 24.3%. So
It's very close.
generationally, we meet in the middle, I would say, on that.
We do.
I figured I'd shock you with that one.
That did shock me. That's very, very close. So I guess we can. Was there any more facts?
That was it on my end.
Okay, well then I guess that we can probably close out this podcast by saying that we're not at odds.